All right, it's contest time, people.
Contest time.
We are doing a giveaway. Did you know that AMC is hosting private movie screenings starting at $100?
Get the fuck out of here.
No, I live here, but isn't that crazy? So we're giving away a $100 AMC gift card so you can rent your own movie theater. To enter, you have to follow us. You can follow me at Todd A. Johnson on Instagram or Jay at J_Connor. So that way you can find the link in our bio for this giveaway. Like I said, it's a $100 AMC gift card.
AMC gift card, baby.
You can have up to 20 people. They are being very safe with how they're sanitizing everything. But we're going to give you a $100 gift card to do what you want, to get your own private AMC movie screening. Right. Do you want to just watch a movie yourself? You want to invite a friend? You want to invite two guys who would probably want to go see a movie with you? You can do that. Or you can just tell us to fuck off. Whatever you want to do. But make sure to go and find us on Instagram so you can enter today.
3, 5.
Make some noise!
No, I don't think freebasing heroin's a great idea. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Making Noise with Todd Johnson. I'm your host, Todd Johnson.
What's up, y'all?
And with me, as always, is Jay Connor.
Not freebasing heroin.
Not freebasing.
Not freebasing heroin. Just in case anybody was wondering.
Oh, man. How are you doing, man?
I'm good since I stopped freebasing heroin.
Okay. Oh, so you did, but you're not doing it anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay. Well, you're going to call your employer.
Please don't.
No, but don't worry. Nobody sees this part.
Yeah,
we'll totally.
nobody watches.
We'll totally
this or
cut this
listens
out.
to it
We're not
either.
going to cut this out.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear you're doing okay, man.
Yeah. How are you doing, Todd?
I'm doing good. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah. Heard you had a late night last night.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I'm a little. Well, so last night was actually kind of crazy. I had literally no show booked.
No show.
Nothing booked for like a Saturday night. And so I was like, I'm just going to do some stuff around the house and finish a mix that I was working on.
Oh, cool. How'd that go?
Well, I just started.
Yeah.
And then got a phone call and there was a cancellation somewhere else.
Okay.
At Royal Bliss in Denver.
Okay.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. That's been a long plane ride.
Yeah, not the probably more interesting Denver, Colorado, whatever. I'm sitting here worried that I'm going to upset the people of Denver, North Carolina. Does it annoy you when there's a town that's named like Washington, North Carolina? Like, come on, there's already another like there's a London somewhere. Like, I don't want to go to London, Nebraska. Like, don't pull a switch one. Like people are gonna think, oh, we thought this was the real one. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Sorry, Anyway, so I went to the not as cool Denver, but still pretty cool Denver, actually.
Pretty cool Denver sometimes, yeah.
Royal Bliss was actually really cool. And so went and did that and played there. And then as soon as I was done, I got a text from some friends saying that they were having a little game night.
Game night? What kind of games?
We played Secret Hitler.
Secret Hitler?
Yeah, which in this day and age is not so secret. We could see them. But that was we played Secret Hitler, Code Names. I haven't been a big board game dude.
Okay.
So I'm always the guy at board game night that you have to explain everything. You know what I mean?
Okay. Maybe you should brush up on your board games, man.
Maybe.
If you're going to continue to go to board game parties, you should brush up on your board games.
Yeah, probably so, I guess. I'll put that in the planner. Brush up.
Yeah.
Tuesday at 10 a.m.
I mean, what the fuck else are you doing?
I'm doing shit. I'm doing stuff. No, I'm trying to be busy. So, but yeah, there may or may not have been alcohol involved as well.
Okay.
But we weren't drunk when we did this interview.
No, we weren't.
Our guest today is a country singer-songwriter from the hills of Tennessee. She is also a Cicerone, making her a certified beer expert. Certified. You can find her album, The Trigger, and her cover of Jolene by Dolly Parton, which I was happy to be part of, wherever you can find music. This is our conversation, as well as we have a exclusive song later, so make sure to stick around. Exclusive
Great
performance.
Song. Great song.
Here is Kelsey Ryan. Yeah,
Yep.
Kinda. You know what I really love right now is giving myself so much work of later when editing this. If we all just go, and just make as many plosive and
just
sounds as we can.
I'm gonna beatbox all the way through.
I'm gonna go outside and slash every one of your tires right now.
You don't know this, but I had this whole like beatboxing section like lined up for the end of this interview where I was gonna beatbox while Kelsey was gonna sing country over it, and then we were gonna do a mashup with somebody.
I think that's a mashup with somebody. I think that's great. Are you gonna call like Nige Hood or something? Like she's gonna do. Oh,
dude, you beatbox out Jolene, 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 Jolene.
Jolene.
She's
bitch.
a crazy bitch.
What is that shirt that Jillian has?
It's just
What does it say? Oh, you can have him.
Yeah, Jolene, you can have him. Yeah.
My favorite story about that song Jolene is talks about it in like bringing into a queer space, and it's just like Dolly should have run away with Jolene, like leave the guy behind, and then those two get together. And I love that idea so much more than any other.
I don't think
that's a
the
bad
country
idea.
music
I'm just
fans in
picking.
the
just picking.
70s. When did that song come out?
Oh, that was earlier than 70s.
It was the 60s probably.
Let's
I mean, think about
use
it.
the
Your
Google.
beauty is beyond compare with flaming locks of auburn hair. I mean, she's
no.
clearly into her.
Yeah, she's definitely into Jolene.
Oh, she's totally into her.
Like
That's a good point.
that's the best. That's the best end of the song, because why would you want to stick with a guy who's already like wandering eyes?
Yeah.
Why don't you go for the hot lady?
Hey, girl, instead of screwing my dude, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go run away. 74.
74.
74. That was a little later than I thought it would. Yeah. It's funny like that with country songs and stuff, especially story songs or anything. You can kind of take your own narrative anyway with it. Mentioning of narratives and songs, I feel like you do kind of you don't necessarily do narrative style country in a way. You don't have a story. You don't have like a Dixie Chicks Goodbye Earl song. You know what I mean?
No, maybe not.
But
Not at this point.
But I do feel like it's still that narrative thing is definitely a thing in country. But you're definitely in my mind a very much a country songwriter. You know, I mean, you're a great songwriter, and they translate across any genre or whatever. But I think to you, what makes a song country versus
Versus not a country
song?
Well, I think to a degree, country is about being very real and authentic. And even if you're not like telling a straight story, you're always kind of telling a story, and it's from a very personal place.
Right.
And it brings it like down to home a lot. That's a good country song for me. And then there's a few of the musical things to it. You know, Three
Right.
Chords and the Truth.
Right.
Is the trope about country music, and
Right.
it really holds true. You really don't need that much more than a few of
Right.
those good cowboy chords to make something
Yeah.
work like that as a country song. But
It's just funny to me because like so many of those things, and obviously, I mean, rock is, to me, rock is a marriage of country and blues. You know, but those things are true in blues music. Those things are true in rock music. Those things are true in pop music. It's just the genre thing. Country seems to be so like impacted by its genre. Like if you put out a pop song or a rock song and it sounds a little, or it's almost just like rap or hip hop. You know, like I feel like rap, hip hop, country are very similar in the fact that it's like, no, this is what crosses those lines. Mm-hmm. This is what makes this not an authentic hip hop song. This is what makes this not an authentic country song. It's weird how like there's genre specifications so much more than like a pop song or a rock song. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
is that a
absolutely.
wrong opinion to have in my mind?
It's funny you should mention that, because I think hip hop mirrors country in a big way, in terms of a lot of people will talk about old school country versus new pop culture country, and then they also talk about old school hip hop versus new hip hop and new rap and what's happening in that genre. So I think they kind of mirror each other in that way.
Yeah.
It's because those genres have both evolved so distinctly, I guess,
Right.
over the years. I consider myself more of an old school writer, where it was a lot more about, being vulnerable and talking about heartbreak and all those tropes about sad country songs is sort of where I lean into a little bit more than when you're talking about, getting in the tailgate with
As I say,
that,
you don't have any-
long tan leg girl and
With
come
blue
on over
jeans
here,
painted on.
baby. Yeah, with your blue jeans painted on, your honky tonk, badonka and
Hey, girl.
goodness.
So many hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
I mean, you just encompassed like 20 years of different country music with those two statements.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's always like the classic, in the past 10 years wasn't the first time someone ever wrote a country song about a truck. But after a while, it does get to a point where, like, dude, we get it. You got a Silverado. Like, we get it,
Well, it's, country to me seems to be music that is more affected by the land and the people that live there. And that's kind of the way that I look at it. It's that I think that's why that you were talking about the narrative earlier,
Right.
You get narrative in that. You don't really get narrative as much in rock and roll. And if you
Right.
do get narrative, it's clever narrative from the point that maybe you're not outright saying exactly what you're trying to say.
Right.
But in country, you straight up say, my wife left me and my dog ran
Right.
away and my truck broke down and now I'm looking
Right.
for a way or something. You know what I mean? I mean, that's
Right.
me being really reductive. But it's,
Right,
but
right,
it's-
right.
but
Running
it's-
away on a train.
Yeah, running away on a train or, my mama tried to raise me right, something. It's
Right.
and-
versus like, and I'm of course, I'm going to bring up Springsteen, but versus like Atlantic City.
right.
Where the reading between the lines is that, like, at no point in Atlantic City does he say, I mean, other than the bridge,
Yeah.
at no point is he saying this is a kind of a sham marriage and I'm going to try to figure out how to make it work.
Right. And at no point does he say, I'm going to work for a gangster.
Right.
But he is.
But he is.
Yeah.
And he's going to take that money and do
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah.
This is the one thing with country that's always bothered me. And this is kind of obvious, but like, I feel like country definitely, probably is the one that's got the worst, like, old boy system.
Well, country is country, right?
Right.
I mean, and we look at it nowadays we look at it as modern country, right? Bro country, a lot of like the stuff that I don't like,
Right.
Bro country. And then we also have, with hip hop, you have all these different
Yeah.
areas that when you hear it, it's distinctively Dirty South. It's distinctively Atlanta.
Right.
It's distinctively East Coast. It West Coast. As soon as you hear anything that's sounds like it's a funk sample, right?
Yeah.
You immediately say, boom, that's a West Coast
Right.
song. But with country, it's really just kind of one thing.
Kinda. I don't know if,
No, I'm not sure if that's necessarily true because I guess I'm a little more in the genre, but there's definitely there's like an Austin sound versus a Nashville sound. There's a almost Northwest sound, but a lot of these people who have these slightly different sounds of country aren't really owning country
Right.
as their genre.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
The stuff that we look at as being country
right.
and that the majority of folks who listen to music look at as being country.
Yeah.
They don't look at a Jason Isbell or a Chris Stapleton
Right.
as being country, where I would consider them to be
Right.
a form of country.
They absolutely are much in that tradition of country, and I think that's a failure of the country music establishment to really try and grow the genre
Yeah.
and let it be more than just the Music Row Nashville thing, and it's sort of reducing it. It's
Right.
It feels like establishment is only supporting bro country or a handful of maybe more poppy female artists and all of these artists that are really following the traditions of country who are writing songs like Willie and Waylon and Merle used to write are not necessarily being considered that, and they don't even want to be
Right.
either because there's so much problematic stuff.
Well, there's a lot of
country now.
preconceived notions, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one of the problems that we get with music when we start categorizing things into genres.
Right.
Is that once something steps outside that genre
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, I think that is personally like the worst creative thing in a way for especially with people I work with or if I'm writing something is thinking this isn't in my box. This isn't my wheelhouse. I need to go back to my wheelhouse, or one way or the other. I
Right.
think it's cool to like, if you're like, I want to, as a rock singer or a rock writer or whatever you want to, I can call whatever it is that I do. Like if I want to do something that's a little more country, or if I want to do something that's got a hip hop beat in it, like it's exciting to do that.
Right.
That's where I think it's good to have genre, because you could jump into that little area. But then you're gonna have problems like what was it, like Margot Price's record a couple years ago was like, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like like on iTunes or whatever, it was like labeled an R&B record, and it's fucking Margot. It's a country record, know. And
I was just going to talk about Marco Rice's most recent record, the
Right.
new one. That's how Rumors Get Started. It is undoubtedly a country album in some of the songwriting
Right.
and narrative approaches, and her voice is just so quintessential country. But it's also a rock record. She has huge, noticeable influences from Tom Petty and
Right.
Rolling Stones, and you just can absolutely hear on that record, like, that's a Tom Petty song that Margot Price is doing, but it's still a country song in a way. I was just having this idea of there's some really great music that comes out of people who are influenced by country in terms of their songwriting style and that narrative approach and that very extreme vulnerability and not being scared of intense topics. But then branching out musically into different areas.
Right.
Like, I mean, Margot, Sturgill Simpson's recently done it. He put out a more of a rock record, then he just did a bluegrass one. But if you kind of start with that base of songwriting from a really vulnerable position and then move outward, it can lead to some really, really cool musical moments.
right.
So it's interesting you bring up that Sturgill album. One of the great things about being a sax player is that I get the opportunity to play with a lot of different kind of bands, right? So I'm sort of around different types of fan bases, and one of the bands I play in has a distinctive country singer songwriter kind of deal going on with it, and a lot of those folks are big Sturgill Simpson fans, Tyler Childers fans, Jason Isbell, Chris Stapleton, stuff like that, like singer songwriter guys, and they all hated that Sturgill album.
Which
Like-
one? The
like the
anime
newest
one?
one.
Yeah,
Or the
new
bluegrass
one.
one?
No, the anime. The bluegrass they're going to be fine with. I mean, that's,
Right.
I mean, that's a given.
But see, that's what's interesting
Yeah.
right there is just as a fan base, and I'm not calling out, but it just traditionally speaking, the country fan base is the one that will come to you with a fucking pickaxe.
Oh, yeah.
Like they will you do one thing one way or another.
Yep.
It's almost similar to like comedians saying something in the wrong way or something, and then they love to watch you fall if you're a country act. I think.
I went to see that my last concert pre-COVID shutdown was Sturgill Simpson with that album release and
God, I
Tyler
missed that
Childers. You missed that show. You had to have a gig.
I know.
And
I
you
should
had
have went.
tickets and everything.
I had tickets, and then I had a gig pop up, and I was like,
Yeah.
I got to take this, and then
Well,
But,
I mean,
I mean-
who knew that was going to happen in March?
right,
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad now that I took the gig.
Yeah.
But I went to that show, and I gotta say, like, that album's not my favorite album because I am more about the songwriting. But
Right.
I could absolutely understand, like, this album is about Sturgill Simpson wanting to play guitar because that's what that show was. It was
it
like
sounded
Sturgill
good.
Simpson can play the freaking guitar,
Right.
And I was like, all right, that's what
Yeah.
I'm getting tonight. Okay, cool. He's amazing, awesome. And it worked more for the Spectrum Center to be that type of show.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Tyler Childers, but I've seen him before in different arenas, and it didn't really translate in the Spectrum Center.
Okay.
Tyler, like he's a more of a
Intimate,
intimate
yeah.
show kind of a guy. Like
Especially
I want
like
to,
solo.
yeah, you want to be like 20 feet away from him, seeing him wail solo acoustic guitar on Nose on the Grindstone, and just like all that passion you can see in his face. But from 300 yards away in the
Yeah,
balcony, it just didn't translate as well. So I mean, actually, the Sturgill show that way was pretty cool for where
Right.
we were.
Well, I think it poses an interesting question of how does an album translate live when we do it?
Yes. Well, and also going back to what your purpose was, not to derail, but your purpose of like writing country, writing as a songwriter, and then going, okay, which vessel in a way does this need to go down? that was a very the record that Sturgill that he wrote, the rock record, in a way, was a very anti-establishment, punk mentality in a way. And I think that the songs and the music, I think he honored the songs more by going outside of his little box, and saying, I don't want to have just that little box. And then doing it in that rock record, right? Granted, I love stuff like that. I am usually always not the guy that agrees with people on this, but I love when a band or an artist takes a chance and reinvents themselves. But like you were saying about live, that's a completely different ballpark.
Well, yeah, but to ask a point about what you were saying.
Uh-huh.
If Sturgill Simpson had came out with that record first,
right?
Number one, would it have gone anywhere? Number two, would anybody have given it a chance to go anywhere?
Right.
Or was that record only there because he had earned the right by being good at this other thing?
No.
That's a good question.
As I said, I didn't like that record as much as I like some of his other stuff because I do lean more toward that country sound.
Right.
So I think personally for me, I probably wouldn't paid much attention
Right.
to Sturgill Simpson if that was the only record that I knew of him. But since I had already had all the other things that he has, Life of Sin and You Can Have the Crown and all of those great songs, then I mean, his voice is still incredible though, and it's so quintessentially country.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That guy. That's what's kind of so crazy about Sturgill, and especially his unique voice. In a way, he's like, you can't be anything else. In a way, he's so adamantly Kentucky. And it's what's funny though, in this being someone like Sturgill, to where his first release was good and stuff. But I mean, he's historically had his issues with being considered big enough or good enough for establishment or
Who the
whatever.
fuck is Sturgill Simpson?
Right, the whole, what a brilliant.
I mean, that was a great T-shirt.
What a brilliant fucking. His manager should get. I mean,
Publicist, whoever came up with that.
yeah. But like
The bar owner.
right,
Who the fuck is Sturgill Simpson, man? Oh God, what is this guy?
but is it better to be in someone like Sturgill's position or Kane Brown? Which is better, being in a position like Kane Brown, who's somebody who came out a few years ago, had a really big single, very explosive, big hot new guy in country or whatever, especially coming from an establishment thing, or someone like Sturgill, which is better, because I don't think Kane Brown could ever say, you know what, fuck it, I want to put out a rock record. Like no one around him would let that happen.
Right, it would never come to fruition.
And I think it's better. It's like the Eagles. Like the Eagles weren't that big. I mean, they were successful, but their first record or two. It wasn't like they didn't really catch on. Hell, Desperado was considered like a flop, And it was kind of good in a way for them, I think, to kind of be this band that was good enough to hang on and float around until they could, and then obviously like with Hotel, and they were still big, but like once Hotel California came out, that was when they were kind of locked in establishment in a way, as being a bigger band. But anyway, I love artists that you see grow.
I think country sincerely is coming upon a point that they have a reckoning to deal with. They're going to lose some of their best artists to moving into other genres or just not accepting themselves as country.
Right.
Because of they're just kind of being stagnant or moving so pop. One thing that
Excuse me.
just happened in the country music world is that Jason Isbell and Amanda Shires gave back their Country Music Association membership cards because the CMA Awards didn't mention John Prine, who is a legend in songwriting, in country folk songwriting. And he unfortunately died this year from COVID, and nothing in the CMO Awards even alluded to it or
Really?
mentioned him at all. And
Really?
so Jason Isbell and Amanda Shires were like, that is total bullshit. We're giving back our membership cards.
Yeah, fuck
we
that.
don't want to be a part of this. If
Fuck
you're
that.
not gonna
Yeah.
if you're not gonna even acknowledge the passing of one of the biggest legends
Right.
in country songwriting ever.
And that's what I'm saying. It just feels like so like that someone, there's no way to have the Country Music Awards and no one who's putting on the planning. No, somebody had to say, should we include something about in any memoriam as far as John Prine? Somebody in the room had to at least bring that up, say something about it, and if it wasn't, and if they decided not to do something about it, it's either that, which is shitty, or didn't even know who John Prine was. Either way is just goes to show like that doesn't really need to be an institution.
There were so many
You know?
big artists that passed this year, not just John Prine too, in
Right.
country. It's just like, really, you're not going to do an in memoriam section at all?
Right.
I mean, freaking Kenny Rogers died this year.
Right.
Side note, my first concert ever as a kid, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Island and Streams tour.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were sitting about probably 8 rows out, and I remember one thing I remember about it was hoping that I could catch a tambourine because Kenny threw out tambourines.
Really?
Yeah, and
That's cool.
They sang all the good songs that you would want them to sing from there, and it was cool because Dolly did a set, and Kenny did a set, and then they did a set together.
That sounds
And there
like an
wasn't.
excellent
I don't remember
show.
there being an opener. Now, I was probably 5 or 6
Right.
when that happened. Right. I don't know what it was. It was that Islands on the Stream tour, and it was circular. So they were in the middle. It was an arena. It was at the old Carter Finley Stadium.
Okay.
In Raleigh, right? And it was inside, and it was round. So the people were set up 360 around them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which I didn't realize was a thing with like old school country music acts that went into those kind of places.
In the round kind of thing, yeah.
One time I worked security for George Strait, and
King
like
George.
stood with my back to his band the whole time, and that was the same setup.
Really?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
That's crazy.
No.
I like George Strait. I do. That old Texas sound. Man.
Yeah, that
Love
was
it.
actually a lot of fun. I remember that there were people in front of me that had just gotten engaged, and that was like their engagement present. To
Oh, really?
themselves. Yeah.
Check yes or no. Cute.
You know, but going back to the whole John Prine thing with the CMAs, you know,
Yeah.
to an extent, it really does not surprise me because
Right.
especially Nashville, right? Nashville country music
Oh,
is the only thing that they're about really is where's the next hit and how much money are they making?
right. It's
And
yeah.
I mean, and would we even consider, and going back to the genre question, if John Prine were to start writing today,
Would we care?
well, no, where would we put him?
Right. He would definitely be Americana artist.
Right.
He would not
He'd be
He'd
Americana.
be whatever the Americana.
Yeah, he'd be singer-songwriter.
Singer-songwriter, folk, Americana.
I mean, my favorite song of his has always been "Angel from Montgomery," and I know that might be the easy one to say
Right.
for anybody, but you know, just the message of that song and kind of how it's written, and you know, a guy singing from a woman's perspective.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
it
he's
was
such
it
a
was
great
definitely
songwriter.
it was definitely like kind of revolutionary.
Yeah.
A little bit at the time, right?
My favorite John Prine song is Blue Umbrella.
Okay.
It's
good one.
one that people necessarily don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love Angel from Montgomery.
Yep.
I love covering that. I love, In Spite of Ourselves. But my favorite is Blue
Yeah.
Umbrella because it gutted me
Mm-hmm.
immediately as soon as I heard that chorus. And the craziest thing about it is he only sings it once during his whole verse, and it's one of the greatest lines I've ever heard. It's just give me one good reason, and I promise I won't ask you for any more. Just give me one extra season so I can figure out the other 4. And I was just like, what is this man? What
Yeah.
kind of songwriter is that? That is freaking incredible.
What a line.
Like, and he only sings it once. And I'm like,
Well, and you know, he also I always love Dear Abby, just because just as
Yes.
like a funny song, singing about Dear Abby letters. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand how there could be any sort of establishment kind of stuff. But also at the end of the day too, like it's weird. It's like that sort of stuff is cool, and it's also Sturgill had an interview on Broken Record podcast where he was talking to Rick Rubin, and someone said, well, Rick, do you got any albums on, they're up for Grammy nominations? And like Rick genuinely was like, I don't know. Like he didn't care. And I've heard this kind of thing a few times from a couple other people, but like people just using the Grammy as a doorstop or something. Like it doesn't matter, in a way. It does to people who sell records To the executives that sell it, it does. Because historically, every time if you get a Grammy or something, it matters. But does that mean what you create has more importance over something else? It's always kind of weird. But once again, you need that notoriety to be able to give that platform. So you gotta, it's the balance, right? It's the balance. You got to do a little bit of the monkey dance. But it's like, can you do it enough to where you don't lose your soul doing it? Can you do it in a way that makes you still happy?
It is weird, man.
It's weird.
It is weird. I mean, because you're balancing, artistic integrity with financial needs,
Right.
and there comes a point where you have to make that decision.
Right. I think the best thing you can do if you're an artist or anything, and I mean this is absolutely true, is if you can, if you're making money off your royalties and you're not worried about the money, great. If you have a day job and you're doing that, great. If you have something else that you're really good at, I do not think you need to be a full-time musician to make better music. I think your probably chances of making better music are better if your money's not tied to it, which is why this year I have written so many shit songs because this is my first year, again, being full-time. That's kind of the way it goes. I think the second you take money or notoriety or anything and just purely let yourself be an artist, you do your best work. You always do,
Absolutely. I think another aspect of country has, I think, unfortunately, tied itself a little bit to politics. And if you venture outside of
Dixie Chicks.
the conservative politics,
Yep, just ask the
then
Dixie Chicks.
then you might be saying goodbye to being considered country.
Yeah, which I mean,
Country in the Nashville sense. I think that's an important distinction for people who understand music.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, yeah, music raised everything. Man, every time I've been to Nashville, I gotta say, it's been a shit show. I remember one time there's this guy and was gonna go sleep on some guy's couch for 3 weeks. Try to set up some meetings and different stuff. And he was like, "You need to change your Facebook profile to saying you're living in Nashville." I'm like, "I'm not living in that. I'm just on the couch." It was just that mentality of yeah, but that's how you're gonna get gigs and everything. And it was just the mentality of already going ahead and okay, go ahead and we want you to be your authentic self, but everyone around you is okay, do this fake thing. And it's you're just setting up for, and if that's how you get through at the bottom level, then that definitely comes through from the top levels of wherever,
Well, it's a persona, right?
Right.
And to go back to a callback from what you talked about earlier when it came to hip hop, right? I mean, ain't nobody in hip hop going by their actual name, right?
Right.
It's all a persona.
Yeah. And it's good to have that.
Yeah, and it's all something that they're creating to create this experience to then express themselves in an artistic way.
Right.
Now, does that mean that Florida Georgia Line woke up one day and said, "Hey, man, let's all be douchebags"? I mean, probably.
Right.
But it's a decision, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to play into that lifestyle,
right,
and you're going to play into, really that marketing is what it comes down to.
Right.
Because the whole point of that is for you to make as much money as humanly possible at that point.
Right.
And how can I do that?
Well, once again, take money out of it, and you're gonna have songs that are way better in a way. You take money out of it, it's gonna be way better. Like I said, I wish that I had another skill or something that I could do in a way that I could be do some of the stuff I do. I mean, I
like producing.
Right. Well, no, that's what I mean. It's all music. The stuff that I do best is all music. I'm not saying that I'm a great musician or a singer or a producer even, but it's what I do best.
Yeah.
I do that better than, for example, I'm jealous of your abilities as a cicerone. Am I even saying that correctly?
Yes.
Cicerone. Okay. I had to practice that 80 times once because I think I was so you're a cicerone, huh? But you're you at any point could get a gig in craft beer. It front and backwards. And that is nothing against your musical abilities by any means because you're a fantastic musician. But the fact that you have this other facet to what you do, that's a fantastic thing that you have.
I should probably explain a cicerone as a beer sommelier. I have far too much information on beer packed into my noggin than most humans.
Oh my God, you know what we should have done? Oh, we might do a segment on this later. Yeah, oh, this would be so cool. This would be so cool. We get a bunch of beer and we don't tell her what it is.
And she has a blind taste test.
And she has to
Pepsi challenge.
Yes, we Pepsi challenge her with beer.
That sounds like my Cicerone exam.
That's exactly what it
Okay.
was.
I had to do
okay.
taste tests. It was pretty special.
There's actually, I met a woman one time in Belmont. She lives in Belmont. That is a sake sommelier.
Oh,
And she
interesting.
goes around and trains other people to be sommeliers for sake.
Wow.
And I was like, there's a market for that? Like
yeah, that's awesome.
For sake, that seems like
It's sake is a reach to me.
Yeah.
In Belmont, North Carolina.
Belmont, North Carolina.
wow.
Yeah.
See, that's what I kind of love about North Carolina is that it's so. To me it is definitely the state of like, wait, we fucking have that here, you know? like you just like sometimes you're like, you got to pass the cornfields to your tobacco farm to get
Right.
to the sake sommelier
Yeah.
in Belmont.
Well, to talk about beer for a minute, we got
Yeah.
super lucky in North Carolina with beer.
Oh yeah,
Like-
no,
like-
this is beer heaven.
Like just
Yeah.
by accident almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, you can say things. We're just North Carolina boys. You've actually been around the country and different places that actually know where beer is.
A lot of breweries here, definitely. A lot of breweries here.
Do you enjoy the brewery scene in Charlotte, or are you like peasants? Like are you like there's like some you go into and you're like this guy doesn't know what he's doing. You don't have to say names. Please do.
There are definitely breweries that are way better than others here in Charlotte. I will say that.
Sycamore, OMB. What is it? You don't say names. I'm just joking.
Yeah, I'm not going to say names.
So I don't like OMB.
I'm not going to name names.
Yeah, don't like OMB because I'm not a traditional German. Their Dunkel is good. But I'm not an ale guy. I'm not a copper ale guy.
I am.
It's just brown ales.
All day, every
I
day.
just can't deal with them anymore.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
I like their Oktoberfest. I think their Oktoberfest is pretty good.
Yeah.
I lived in California for a while, and that's where I first got into the beer
Way
industry.
to brag about it.
Oh my god!
Just thinking about it.
I moved to California because I went to Stanford.
I know.
As
I know.
grad school.
I know.
I know. Speaking of
this
bragging.
this is the first time I've ever heard you say anything about Stanford in a braggy way, because you were so self-conscious about Stanford, and I would constantly be like, yeah, but you went to Stanford, yeah, and you're like, that's funny, that's great, that's good. I'm gonna play that on a loop. I'm just gonna every time someone says something, anytime in this show, I'm just gonna be like, I went to Stanford.
I need a soundboard.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh God, the last thing we need to do.
Because right there
Jay.
when she said California, I wanted to hit the California, that one.
Yeah.
Please
Please keep doing it. Now we have to pay royalties for it.
Cool.
California.
Yeah, that one.
Knows how to party.
Yep, see?
Hey, all right. Well, I know what we're listening to after this.
So, yeah, I moved to California, and the beer scene out there was so radically different from anything that I've
Right,
ever
yeah.
seen, which is how I got into that, because I studied journalism in grad school and then kind of hopped into craft beer, into marketing for it, because I started covering it as a journalist. They for whatever reason, nobody was covering craft beer out in California at the time. Everybody was focused on wine. And so the local papers, the San Francisco Chronicle and all of them, were just doing, they were doing nothing for beer. And it was crazy how huge the industry was at that time.
So
it was,
what
so it's
you-
like 2010, 11, 12.
Right. Okay.
So 2010. So right at kind of the beginning
It's the
of craft
peak.
beer.
Yeah, like
Okay.
it's a big peak moment. It's just like growing triple digits everywhere. It's nuts. And so I'm getting into the industry there, and I'm writing about it. I made contacts and ended up being a marketing person for a craft brewery, and I'm in sales, and that's my other side of my job. And I did the whole Cicerone thing because I was in my mid-20s and a woman in a very male-dominated industry, and I wanted them to take me seriously. So I went and got a certification and learned a fuck ton about beer.
Did you ever have a moment where someone tried to mansplain like something to you, and then
I
you were
definitely
like,
think that happened.
yeah, it was, and then, yeah. Oh, no, I'm sure it happened, but then like you were like, excuse me, bitch, this is a Belgian white.
Yeah.
That's a
My
beer, right?
favorite, yeah, that's a Belgian wit or Belgian white, either. That's the style that Blue Moon is based off. Yes, absolutely. It was
don't have to tell
normally the home brewers would do that to you. I remember one particular time I was at a festival and I was in festival mode, so I'm very smiley. And I had this little pen, little like lapel pin that said Certified Cicerone, and it was just my little like way to nod at like, hey, I know what I'm talking about to everybody there.
Right.
And so I had it on, and this dude walks up and he says, oh, you're a Cicerone. And I'm like, yes, I absolutely am. For a couple of years, we have our pale ale and our stout here today. I don't remember what we had, but we had like a couple of things. He starts to
I'm not
quiz,
giving you my number, dude.
He starts to quiz me. He starts to quiz me on beer. So the first question he decides to ask is, oh, so you're a Cicerone. What's the difference between an ale and a lager? Which is a very, very basic question.
My boot up your ass. Get away.
I mean, if
I don't know, jackass. Maybe one of them's lagered.
it's a very basic question.
Right.
And so I'm still in festival mode, still smiley, and I'm still going like, oh, well, an ale is a top fermenting yeast. It typically ferments a little bit higher. And then I'm like midway through the sentence and I just like sort of stop and I say, why are you asking me this?
Right.
You know I know the answer to this question.
Right.
I'm a Cicerone. I could not have passed that exam unless I knew the answer to this question. So why are you asking me this right now? Are you just quizzing me? Would you like one of the beers I'm selling today? I need to know the answer to that question because I don't need you to quiz me on beer right now. And he was just like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I was just, and then he like ran away.
I was raised by a toxic parent. I don't know. My toxic masculinity.
And then he ran away, and I just felt so satisfied having done that to him.
Can we get the whiteboard over here? When?
Exactly.
Yeah, God, I can imagine. And do you feel that is the same now that you're in another industry that I would say is a very male-dominated industry? Do you feel that similar thing happens here? You can call me out too at any moment because I know that we've discussed music for years and stuff. I mean, like, do you feel like that happens at all in the musician community or with music stuff? Have you experienced that with that sort of thing?
I'm not sure I've experienced it as much in this community. I think this community is pretty inclusive. I think that I've had respect for my songs from a lot of the community since I started playing them here. So
right.
I definitely haven't felt that to the degree here in Charlotte.
Okay, so as another perspective, I mean, I've been playing in bands for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? Ask me how many times I've ever played in a band with a female lead singer.
How many times?
Never.
Right.
I've never even...
Really?
Yeah, never. Every band I've ever played in has always been with guys.
Sorry, I haven't booked you, Jay.
Yeah, well, no. Damn it, Kelsey.
This is weird.
I mean, I guess where I'm coming at is that like so when we look at country music, right? Just to kind of circle this back around to country music,
right?
Country music, I mean, other than maybe R&B, right?
Right.
Has more prominent women in it than rock and roll does. Would you believe?
I would say that.
Yeah, right.
For sure.
R&B has a very strong presence when it comes to women singers and specifically strong women singers, right?
Right.
Like that at a time of civil rights unrest, we're doing cool songs about that, and we're, I'm every woman and all that good stuff, right? So on a local level, we don't see a lot.
No, you're right.
Of female singers at all.
Right.
So, did you find that to be any type of hurdle when you were trying to book gigs? Did you, or was it a plus for you because you're like, hey, here's a country band that's headed up by a female singer?
I think it's mostly been a positive in my experience because there aren't as many here for sure. And if it was a negative, I don't know if I noticed it. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever been not booked because I was
Right.
a woman. I think I definitely have been booked because someone was looking for a female led band
Right.
before. So I think for me, it's mostly been a positive, being a little bit unique in this market. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see, I've definitely seen inklings of maybe not being taken as seriously, but for the most part, anybody that listens to my actual songs
Right.
Right. Once they-
tends to
yeah.
think that I'm
That doesn't tend to
pretty
be the
good.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. Once they listen to your songs or your record or something, they're not gonna. If anyone has something to say in like that direction, you know, that's a good point because that is something too. I mean, guys like me in this town are dominating. Like
Right.
we are. It is like very much white guy acoustic guitar at the brewery. You know, seeing an R&B act or a hip hop act or something like that, it really doesn't translate to some of the other clubs or venues and stuff
Right.
that you see. And now I don't know if that's on purpose, but I do think that it's because this town especially is very heavily dominated by it's cheaper to have one person
True.
and it's stereotypically easier to have a guy sing 3 hours worth of covers. Like that is 90% of the gigs in this town is a solo 3-hour gig. And I mean, I can't knock it or say too much about it
Well, that's what pays the bills.
because it pays the
Right.
bills. But I personally don't know if it's culturally for sure the best move forward for Charlotte music. You know, as far as like establishing, because it's very cover dependent. We are a very, very cover dependent town. Now this year's been different.
Right.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, this
So,
year,
I've been soaked in it
this year,
so.
it's just all music is that
Because that's
instead
the only
of
thing we can do.
yeah,
It's the only thing we can do.
instead of having our venues open
Right.
and being able to.
Which I hope they can stay open.
Oh dear God, I don't know how, but
I know. There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now that's hopefully for Save Our Stages. Google Save Our Stages. This is the only soapbox I'm going to be on. People who are listening of the world.
if you want to live in a world that isn't just
Yes.
white guy solo acoustic gigs in bars,
God, please save
playing
me.
covers.
We need more people other than me playing this stuff. I'm tired of playing Wonderwall. The thing that worries me is the places that can be open from whatever kind of legal technicality
Right.
area that we're in right now. In their minds, it's not their responsibility to cultivate a music scene. They are usually restaurants or breweries or bars, and they're going to go with the easier thing of, well, this guy can come up here and play these cover songs and do this kind of stuff. It worries me that that's going to start setting a standard going into 2021 that was already there in 2019 and the past few years of venues like this not saying, you know what, it's totally okay for us to have a 45-minute act of a band come up here and play. And they play for 45 minutes and play at a restaurant or play at a brewery and be an original band. You know, like I feel like so many people are scared or they kind of go like, well, we are going to get more of our dollar's worth out of the guy who's got to sit over here and sing for 3 hours, which I tell you too is not sustainable. It's not. I mean, I've had voice issues for years because of having to do that. So I think it would be good to see places where we want to hear Kelsey's original band and we want to hear her play her stuff and we want to get R&B artists there too. We want to have hip hop shows there too. You know, I do think that it's kind of going down a skewed way that's troublesome.
Save Our Stages. I'll
Yeah.
repeat. That would be
Yeah.
the best way to get it going. To
Sorry.
make sure that those independent venues that do support all manners of artists and all
Right.
types of genres get to keep
Keep
putting
going.
on those shows
Yeah.
once we are, past this whole having to not be together situation.
Might be a while.
I gotta say, it's just I feel so good about the state of just everything and how responsible everyone's been, and just how great we've come together as a country this year, and there's never been any infighting between people. I think we're really doing a great job.
No, we're not. We're doing a horrible job. Wear your fucking mask. Put your fucking mask on. Like, I'm so tired of your... Look, I'm so tired of you. Oh, you're going against my rights. I've got a medical condition. Fuck your medical condition. You know
Put
what?
on a mask.
Everybody in a goddamn hospital has a medical condition, and most of those motherfuckers is wearing masks.
Right.
If they have to.
Right.
You know, and... Look, we've got shit going back to 1918. We got 102 years of positive shit about, hey, man, if you just put this piece of cloth over your face and walk around, guess what? When you spit, shit ain't going to hit somebody else.
Right.
You know, so, like, just do it.
Right.
And
Yep.
that's my soapbox.
Right. Man, you know, I'm waiting for those people who were telling me that that COVID was going to go away magically at the end of the election.
I
Well, I don't know where I haven't heard anything from anyone saying that.
I'm terribly sad that a
Yeah.
pandemic got politicized in this way, and what's crazy to me and what's really sad is that right now, well, definitely the cities, just because the pure population density, we're having spikes, but like the rural areas,
Right.
where everybody has, for some reason, been taught to believe that masks are a sign of being afraid, or it's been politicized. So it's a lot of those areas where people aren't wearing them, that they're seeing these big, huge spikes, and you know those folks don't deserve to die either.
No one does. No.
And it just didn't need to be politicized. I just wish that it had been a unified effort from the start of like, okay, so this thing works.
Right.
Let's all do this because we need to get this under control.
Oh, you mean like every other country but ours?
Yeah, basically.
It feels
Yeah.
that way. Yeah. Well, and it's funny too what becomes politicized and what doesn't, and certain things, you know, are understandable, especially on a social level. And like you were saying too, like this is a weird tie-in, it just kind of made me think of it. But like with country music, for a genre that wants to be so authentic to an individual talking about how they feel, it is crazy how hard someone will come down on you for speaking your mind about something of a social issue or political issue or even the pandemic or anything like that. Like you saying that right now, if you were, you know, signed to Big Machine or something, would probably have some publicist sitting on the couch over there going like don't talk about the pandemic, you know?
Yeah.
I think that an artist should be able to write about that or do anything like, you know. And you've written about some serious subjects before, especially on the topic of, you know, domestic abuse and PTSD. Do you ever find that you write anything political? Do you ever do anything that could be considered political, or is that an area that you try to steer from?
I have written something political, and I haven't released it yet, but you know, it is something that I think about, that this song definitely won't win me points with the country establishment. I wrote a song about women's rights and pro-choice, and it's called Ankle in Alabama.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
So it's an interesting song in that it doesn't really say anything bad about the South or Alabama specifically. It's actually kind of nostalgic for it, but puts a foot down about a woman's right to choose her own path and everything. So I've only performed it a few times live.
So for me, right, one of the things that really stands out about you, Kelsey, and if you hadn't checked out Kelsey's record, you should totally check out Kelsey's record. It's called The Trigger, right? It's Kelsey Ryan. That's exactly how you think it'd be spelled. The Trigger by Kelsey Ryan. Check it out. It's streaming everywhere that you want to watch it, right? So basically, you have such a powerful voice. That's one of the things that comes across.
Yes.
You know, I've seen you live a couple times. I've listened to the record before, and you just have this really great, belty, powerful voice that would really honestly fit just about any genre that you wanted to be in.
Absolutely.
So my question to you is, why country? Why is that your passion?
Well, I would say that country is my passion, partially because I grew up in the South. I was born in Texas, Dallas, Texas, and grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I was just surrounded by country my entire life. Both, you know, '90s country and old school country. Dolly Parton, being very close to us, but I just always loved the storytelling aspect. I was also a huge book nerd growing up, constantly reading something, and ended up being a literature major in college and then journalism grad school student. So just the power of stories and words was so important to me. And then just having that background of growing up in the Southeast and Texas where the genre was so important, it resonated with me, and it sort of felt authentic and true. So when I was writing my songs, it just sort of came out that way, where you're just saying truthful things, being vulnerable, and letting it all come out.
Sometimes you start down that road or something, you don't really think about it. It's almost like you wouldn't call it country until after the fact.
Yeah.
Like you writing the song was just you writing the songs, and how they came out is how they came out, and the fact that, now we sit here and look at it and talk country, and we've talked a lot about country and the genre right now, but in a way it's like songs are songs, and just kind of how it came out naturally is what it is. It's funny to me in a way of like, I think if you choose to be country in a way, like if you make the choice, this is what this is going to be before you write or before you have some of that stuff, it doesn't necessarily translate as well as if you just kind of look back at it and go, oh, I guess this is a country song.
Yeah.
Hey guys, make sure to check out Kelsey Ryan's album, The Trigger. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much anywhere you stream.
Check it out. What's your Instagram? What's your @?
At Kelsey Ryan Music.
Kelsey Ryan Music. Sweet. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Woo. And now with her song Alabama, this is Kelsey Ryan.
Grandma's got 3 acres outside of Union Springs, and she grows the sweetest tomatoes that you'll ever eat. She's always a pot of coffee for anyone to drink, but I ain't going to Alabama. And I can still hear my Aunt Margaret singing loudly out of key in the same pew every Sunday for everyone with me. Hear the Reverend preach of grace and love before we go drink sweet tea, but I ain't going to Alabama. No, I ain't going to Alabama, though it's calling out to me. And I won't go down where the honeysuckle washes out the trees. And I won't sit down by the Gulf Shores like I've done for years before. No, I ain't going to Alabama, and that's my choice, not yours. Skipping pebbles in brown water, but it's clear enough to see. If you're not a good neighbor, then you're no good for me. And I'm longing to go back there, feel the mud on my bare feet, but I ain't going to Alabama. No, I ain't going to Alabama, though it's calling out to me. And I won't go down where the honeysuckle walks throughout the trees. And I won't sit down by those Gulf Shores like I've done for years before. No, I ain't going to Alabama, and that's my choice, not yours. She got sick at 30 weeks. And some Maggie in the drugstore. So scared at just 13. And Maria keeps reliving iron grip and sweaty thrust. So I ain't going to Alabama. No, I ain't going to Alabama, though it's calling out to me. And I won't go down where the honeysuckle walks throughout the trees. And I won't sit down by those Gulf shores like I've done for years before. No, I ain't going to Alabama. And that's my choice, not yours. No, I said no. I won't go.
All right, wasn't that great?
Yeah, that was
awesome.
awesome. Great job, Kelsey.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Make sure to check out her stuff. Her album's called The Trigger. You can follow Kelsey Ryan on Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, all that jazz. So make sure to check her out, follow her, check out what she's doing next. So thank you guys very much. We really appreciate it. Make sure to rate, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. And we will see you next week. Take care, everybody. Woo!